Welcome friends to another 40k video. Today I adapt War in the Museum by Robert Rath, and we look at Traysen the Infinite, who is a collector, not like me of fantasy novels and comic books, but a geek Necron collector of people, of history, of moments, and we look at some of the things in his collection, in his museum, in this video. Amongst his own people, the Necrons, he's an overlord from their dynasty, and is known for keeping history and preserving artifacts. We first meet him in the galleries. As like a model on the board, he arranges a tyranid hive tyrant to his liking. He knows the dangers of these creatures. He'd captured it as its pod sped to the surface. It was the centerpiece of a tyrannic wars exhibit. The rest from High Fleet Kronos was made from termagants, gene stealers, and gargoyles. Some of his forces and a spare body awaited outside. These organisms were preserved in hard light, encased like insects in amber. Touch a claw and it would cut you, but they were no more alive than a wax figure would be. He is raised by an alarm and moves through the gallery and the pieces of their tyrannic war to see what's happened. He's attacked and his body rent apart, and he wakes outside with his leech guard, an unpleasant experience he notes. He was slain by a lictor. He does not want to unleash his warriors and their gauze flayers in his museum. The guards will seal the door, whilst Traysen and a few others will go in. He also asks for mind shackle scarabs in case his escape exhibit can be replaced. They move slow and cautiously, scrying for biosignatures, but there were biosignatures everywhere. Each had like hologram encased real living flesh. The hunting party flickered through visual filters, heat, radiation, empiric field. Traysen sees a lictor is out of place in his exhibit, but it's gone in a moment. A spore mine is thrown at them, and the leech guard makes the mistake of slicing it in half with his gun. Acid falls. The captain screamed as his body warped and deformed, and then the flesh stealer attacked Traysen, who gathered power in his obliterator, bringing it to the floor like a hammer. The layers of tundra parted before him, a billowing shockwave of jade energy, throwing immobilizing termagants away from the furrow. The lictor dodged aside, the blast bubbling its chitin and mangling one leg. That did not stop it. Tendrils of flesh, each tipped with a hooked curve of bone, lashed out like amphibian tongues. They snared his arm and dragged him close. Trazyn screamed a curse in old Necron tear. A sickle talon stabbed down through his open mouth and burst the base of his skull. Traysen activated the cryptex oculars and saw his old surrogate, now reverting back to a leech guard, sink to the floor. The remaining two guards were boxing Flesh Stealer in with their shields, getting between Traysen and the marvelous specimen. Traysen raised the cryptex staff of light, unleashing a white-hot beam of the horror falling towards him. Lightning speared through the chamber, strobing on frozen tyranid bodies. One of the lictor's grasping arms spun away, severed. Flesh Stealer still came down right on top of him, bone sights burrowing deep in the space between his shoulder plates and ribcage. Then it heaved and opened his chest like a cabinet. Between this moment and the next, Traysen activated his new oculars. He urged the hijacked body to run and ordered all to scatter, and Traysen weaved through packs of termagants, vaulted ripper swarms. It caught him, and he transferred out before he died again to awaken, and he got through the bunker doors and closed them behind him. At that moment, in this new body, he heard his own voice greeting him and the others. He'd done this in case others came to his exhibit and understand his galleries if he was ever destroyed. So he had recorded audio guides in every known language to the Necron Empire. Traysen then awakes a Magos, who says the creature woke as it feels a part of the Hive Fleet's shadow in the warp, and Traysen is told he should put together a kill team to face the Tyranids. I'm assuming with this suggestion of a kill team and with the title Magos, this is some sort of guy from the Adeptus Mechanicus. Clara and Sentina Fontaine are recommended. They fought High Fleet Kraken as part of the Adeptus Sororitas. They are posed in his museum. His scarabs wake them. One attacks Traysen. He stops her and tries to explain before realizing he only has one sister, The other was a stand-in for her to pose in his museum, another sister of battle, but not the twin sister of Clara. He makes things worse by saying the living sister has parts of her falling sibling. She rants about the perfection of the Emperor. Trazyn responds, "Your kind are born defenseless and take an absurd amount of time to grow to adulthood, and even then you spend a third of your lives unconscious. Everything you consume for energy eventually kills you, and your reproductive system is the same as your waste elimination system." He then shows her the tyrannids and asks for her help. She has no reason to fight for him until he says the tyrannids might threaten the larger system if it attacks, and in return he says he'll free and return her to the Emperor. They look for the lictor, and it attacks again. He drives it back to the kill team. The Magos also fights with the surgical laser. Traysen hits the beast with his staff like a lightning strike, and Sister Magdalene finished it with a melter gun. Then the Necron explains they must reach the Nexus mine. From there they can get out of the gallery. It's then Traysen sees all his Tyranid display is waking up. From Hormagaunts to Carnifexes and a half-dissected hive tyrant. Traysen enjoys this for a moment as the tyrant stands in the spot Traysen had chosen for him. The tyrant lives, but its powers are weak. Those under its control are not strongly linked to the creature. Traysen and his kill team move, and he calls a scorpion-shaped craft to him and climbed aboard, as do the others. The tyrannids swarm the craft. Traysen fires at a Carnifex on a nearby building, but is stopped by the Magos. The Magos throws the gun and gestures for Traysen to fly upwards. The gun, when it explodes, snaps the tyrannid's head back like an uppercut, and it collapses on the street. Traysen flies them into the next gallery. Here things fought. An antique dreadnought fights orcs, whilst dusk raiders engage harlequins, and tyrannids flooded after Traysen move through all the different parts of the museum. They then reach a point where Traysen is able to enter the Nexus. Packaging his spirit algorithm into the proper data format for the system, there he finds Orikan, another Necron, his rival. Orikan had come to see him fall to the great Devourer, as his calculations had predicted what would happen at this time. Traysen works out the gallery has been placed by Orikan in a temporal bubble, and 7 minutes have passed each time Orikan failed to kill him and had to go back. The Necrons then battle. Their minds race through different systems, different programs. When he's cornered, Orikan goes into the mind shackle scarabs. Traysen goes back to a body under attack by a gene stealer. It's the body of Clara, the sister of battle, and he finds Orikan is in the mind of Magdalena, the other sister. They fight in their new bodies. Traysen notes, as the breath is slammed out of him, that it is a new sensation. Traysen headbutts his opposite, and then, from that point, enters her mind shackle scarabs, which is how each Necron is controlling their hosts. So I'm assuming there are a set of these scarabs on everything in the museum. Now they're both in the same mind, and Traysen invades Orikan, who tries and fails to flee into the Magos, and so jumps into the other sister of battle. The tyrant was near them both and looked healthier, so Orikan jumps into the Nid's body and its scarabs. Moments after, it gives off a roar. A light form crawls from its brain case, and Traysen wonders what his rivals saw in there. The ghost shot for the ceiling and seems to escape, but Traysen returned to his own body and brought up the stasis fields. After he created a magnificent recreation of the battle, Clara, the tyrant, Magdalena, and the Magos all in dynamic poses. He had, after all, promised that he would not return them to their exhibit, and this feature, titled War in the Museum, was indeed not their original exhibit, so they stood with updated identification plaques, preserved for eternity. There was only one missing touch. Traysen dragged a finger across the air, creating a glyph plaque. With a flick, he sent it to rest just above the tyrant's cranium, where it would wait in empty space until Traysen could complete the display. On that note, friends, I end today's video. If you've not read much Necron lore, I'm fairly new to it broadly speaking, I would highly recommend The Infinite and Divine, which I believe is by the same author as this short story. It's a really good read. You don't really need to know the lore, but you really get into the personalities of Orikan and Traysen. Specifically Traysen, who's just like a mad history geek, which is something I'm very passionate about. And it comes through in a very amusing way in the novel. So I do recommend you give that a read. And on that note, let me know what you think. Drop me a comment down below. And I'll end today's video now. Goodbye.